Okay, good morning. Hopefully this is working. Um, so I want to talk to you a little bit today about introductions. You should all have a worksheet in front of you that looks like this. Okay? Before we even start, I need to make sure you know what the three components of an introduction are. Okay? So you are going to make notes on this. Okay? You obviously don't have an insert text box, but I'm going to pretend I'm you, and so I want you to write this on your paper. Okay? So here you go. Start taking some notes. Okay, so there are three parts or components. Don't spell it wrong. Of an intro. Okay, so the first part. Here, let's do it like this. Yeah, is something we call an attention getter. Okay, it's the first sentence in your intro. Okay, does not mention the book, is not a question. Some papers you can do that, but generally we don't want you to put a question in there because it kind of speaks of writing that's not very mature. By the time you're in high school, you should come up with other ways to be able to start a paper, okay? So, first sentence and intro does not mention the book, is not a question, okay? It also leads into your discussion of book and thesis, main argument, okay? Number two, okay? So this is all the stuff that you guys should have written down. All right, number two is something and this is the hardest part, is what we call background info, okay? This is usually about 3 sentences. Well, here, it's everything after your attention getter and before your thesis, okay? So basically it explains your attention getter. So explains attention getter, okay? Gives background on the book in 1 or 2 sentences, okay? So when you're writing your background info, basically you want to pretend that the reader has never read the book, never read The Crucible at all. So you have to kind of explain, like, hey, The Crucible is a play about the Salem witch trials and where a bunch of people have been falsely accused, okay? You can also mention the author if you need to, okay? So if you guys gotta kind of look down here, all right, explains how your first sentence relates to an idea in your book, introduces the book, and explains in 1 or 2 sentences what the book is about, okay? So again, it can be 2 sentences. Usually I can't do it in just 1, I have to do 2, okay? And then your third sentence is your thesis, okay? So it's always always last sentence in intro, okay? States exactly what the paper will be about, okay? Slash your argument. Okay. So these are the 3 terms that you need to make sure you know what's going on. Oh, and now I just kind of... All right. Okay, so while I play with this, because I'm going to make this actually a little bit smaller since you guys are watching a video of this, because I don't want it to go over the page. All right, there we go. Okay. Okay, so when you are looking at introductions, okay, this here will give you like an example of an attention getter, background information, and a thesis, okay? So the first thing that we want to do is we want to find out whether or not your attention getter is decent, okay? So these are kind of like little check boxes. Grab reader's attention, leads in discussion of the book, okay? So, all right, here's a sample. So the very first sentence. Now, note here, my introduction that I'm giving you right here, my sample is actually, or my attention getter is actually more than one sentence. Okay, so it has to fit all of these requirements. Now, all of these techniques, okay, I'm going to give you a link that has all the different techniques of how you can start an introduction. Okay, there's like, I don't know, 12, 14 of them. An analogy is comparing something, an anecdote is a little story, a description, you can figure that out. You can also use a definition where you're going to do the definition of a word. That's an easy one to do. You can give historical information, which would be super good to do for the Crucible. You can use humor. You can use a quote from an outside source, okay? But be careful if you do this. A lot of you like to do this, and you just randomly stick a quote in there and then don't do anything with it. Like, then you start talking about other stuff. So you have to make sure you blend that in there. And you can't just do quote, end quote, whoever said it. You need to actually say, you know, the great philosopher Aristotle once said, quote, you have to tell me who's saying the quote, where it came from, why do I care anything about this person? So you can never, ever, ever start your paper with a quote and not say who said it. And if it's just some random person who said it, you probably shouldn't use it, okay? So if you're going to use a quote from an outside source, you better look up who the heck said it and tell me about that person. You can do a short narration or personal experience with the subject. You can use a startling fact. Okay, so like some of you who are writing about revenge or communities falling, you could look up something about, I don't know, communities who were destroyed because of sorry, it's early in the morning and I'm having a brain fart. But you could look up a startling fact about communities that were destroyed because of, let's say, false accusations or fear. Like, I'm thinking about like Hitler and the Nazis and that sort of thing. Startling fact statistic is kind of like the same thing. And then vivid contrast. Now, vivid contrast is basically when you're taking like, okay, here's like situation A, here's what it would be like to live in an ideal world, have an ideal situation where everything is happy and sunshine and roses, and then give a contrast of what the actual situation is, okay? So let's look at my sample. It says, the brave knight, clad in his shining armor, dodges the flames bursting from the fiery dragon. He dashes up the tower to boldly rescue his princess, who awaits true love's kiss. He removes his helmet, revealing a sweaty grin, bulbous face. Revealing a sweaty, green, bulbous face bearing a toothy grin. Okay, so my actual attention getter is this one, description. So I pretended I was painting a picture for the reader of a fairy tale, okay? So then my background information, all right, again, has to keep following this, okay? It says traditional fairy tales boast of this typical knight in shining armor, saving his beautiful princess. Yet, real life shows that not everyone fits this perfect mold. What happens when the prince and princess don't live the happily ever after story? One such tale, William Steig Schreck, illustrates just that. It is a tale about an ogre and his unlikely princess and their journey to find true happiness amidst a world of stereotypes. Okay, so look what I did. The first sentence relates to an idea in your book or your thesis, okay? So here's my description, all right? I'm talking about my princess and everything like that, okay? And here's where I'm actually talking about a little bit of my subject, okay? And then I say, but what happens when you don't have the typical story, right? Real life shows that not everyone fits this perfect mold, okay? And hey, here's an example in a story of exactly that, okay? And then here is my sentence that explains what the book is about. Okay? A tale about an ogre and his unlikely princess and their journey to find true happiness in a world of stereotypes. Okay? So now, I've already mentioned my author. I've already mentioned my book. Okay? So then for sentence number 6, that's your thesis. Okay? And again, it is the last sentence in my intro. So it says, in his book, Stieg illustrates how beauty and integrity are based on one's actions rather than one's appearances. Okay? So this is kind of where your thesis is going to go. So this part right here in this box, so if you guys are reconstructing your introduction, in this box down here is where you're going to put your thesis. Okay? So here's what we're going to do now. We are going to actually look at a couple of sample introductions that you guys wrote from your time writing. Okay? So this part I want you to do in a minute. Okay, this is an example of how you do an actual introduction. And if you take a look here, there's one thing I want to point out. When you go through these boxes, I want you to find the words that are repeating themselves. Okay, so right here, all right, I have the word night. Okay, so if you go back, I've got princess. Okay. I have true love. Oh. Okay. I've got it here. Here I repeat. Our knight. Oh, actually, look. If you look, I have knight in shining armor here. And then I've got knight in shining armor up here. Okay. Here's princess again. Okay. Here's prince and princess and our happily ever after. What happily ever after goes with the word fairy tales. Okay. And then we've got princess here. We have happiness. All right. So we had happily ever after right here. We have happiness right here. Okay. So this is super important. A lot of times when we write stuff, it feels like it doesn't go together. The way to fix that is by what we call parallel structure, or making sure that some of your same words up here in this first sentence are also coming again down here, and they lead straight into here, okay? Because if you look, okay, you got happiness here, we've got beautiful up here, okay, but then in my thesis I have beauty. Again, down here. Again, we're all repeating. We're using the same words that makes everything flow and connect. Okay? So here's an example. All right? So what we're going to do now, okay? So I want you to find the worksheet that looks like this. Student intros from the Crucible essays. Okay? So what we're going to do, okay? I'm going to have to flip back and forth between screens, but you guys have the papers in front of you. So you have this paper. And then you also have another sheet that says grading intros, okay? So you're gonna actually fill this part out. Let me make this a little bit bigger. It's kind of strange doing this whole screen recording thing. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're going to look through some of these things, okay? And Ms. Barman is not super technologically awesome. So I don't know how to make two screens come at once. I'm sure Mr. Alvaro is laughing at me right now. I'm sure he could tell me how to do this, but it's 4:30 in the morning. So anyways, excuse me. All right, so first thing we're going to do, okay? So we're going to read and see, is there an attention getter? Okay? So let's look at number 1. So everybody on your worksheet, put number 1 in there. Okay, we're grading intro number 1. Okay, so then it says here, throughout the years, witchcraft has been vanished. Okay, so first of all, is that an attention getter? Yes. Okay. And then attention getter is a statement, not a question. Not a question. Sweet. Okay. So we're going to put another 2. Attention getter grabs the reader's attention without mentioning the assigned question or book. Does this mention anything about Miller's argument or the crucible? No. All right, sweet. So then we've got that one. Now, the next part we're looking for. There are at least 3 sentences of background information that summarize the book. Okay? So let's count. All right, so we're going back here. So your background info is everything, again, in between this first sentence and then the very last sentence here, okay, which should be your thesis. Okay, so I've got 1 in 1692, if you were slightly accused of being a witch and someone cried out, even though that's not really a complete sentence. Okay, so there's 1. That was more than enough to get you hanged. There's 2. Many people confess, so they wouldn't hanged, even if they were innocent. That's 3. Okay, so yeah, they have 3 sentences. Does the background info briefly summarize or introduce the books and provides context? Context is like tells me what's going on. It doesn't tell me about the book, but it tells me about the Salem witch trials a little bit. So I don't know. What do you guys think there? 1, 2, 1.5. All right. Now, thesis is present and is the last sentence. Okay, so in the crucible, by the way, everyone, when you are looking at this, okay, 2 things that are wrong here. Number 1 is when you type it out, the book needs to be italicized, okay? So make a note of that. Number 2, the should be capitalized, okay? And you always want to have a comma after here. So in the crucible, comma, Arthur Miller argues that individuals within a community of conformity can make someone fear what? Which is still relevant today because in society we're always scared to be different in return of getting judged, hurting our reputation. Holy moly, there's a lot going on right here. Okay, so if I was going to insert a comment here, let's see if I know how to do this on Microsoft Word. File, edit. Oh wait, here we go. Insert new comment. My comment will be, huh? Okay, so write this. Too much going on in this thesis. Okay? Reword to make simpler. Okay? Okay, but let's go back to our grading. Is the thesis present and is the last sentence? Yes, absolutely. Okay? Thesis states the name of the author, title of book, if not already mentioned. Sure does. And Miller's argument. And then spelling and grammar, I go with the 2 on this one, right? Because there were some issues going on in the last sentence. Okay? All right, so what's our score here? Oh boy, math. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 16, 18, 20, so 22 and a half. Okay, so if I was going to do this out of 20, what did I say, 18 and a half? Okay, so there you go. Let's look at number 2. Make this a little bit bigger. Okay, here's number 2. That's too big, isn't it? Okay. Grading sheet, let's write down introduction number 2. All right. When you think about Salem and witch trials, what comes to mind? Oh, I don't know. Most people would say it was cruel and unusual, but others might say something totally different. Okay, so right away when I'm reading this, my first thought is really? Like it was a good thing? Like they deserve to get hanged? Oy. Okay. These trials happened back in the 1600s. You might as well just say back in the day. All right? Here, if you're going to say something, I would say be specific. All right? You need to say 1692. is when it happened. Not just like this crucial even, I think what you mean is event. Okay, I think it should be event. Happened so long because of narrow-minded people that only believed in what they wanted to believe instead of the evidence that was right in front of them. Well, that's true. In the crucible, again, this should be in italics. Ooh. Arthur Miller argues that excessive religion, too much authority, and the fear of the unknown results in unfair judgments against individuals. Excuse me. Wow, that's actually really good. Excessive religion, too much authority, fear of the unknown. And those are the things that resulted in unfair judgments. Okay, so the thesis rocks. Okay, so if I'm going to put a comment in here, and again, you guys should be writing this stuff down, like annotating your own copy so you know, like, hey, this is good, this is not so good. Okay, so if I put in a little comment, great thesis. Okay, so let's go back to our writing group. Attention getters present. Okay, when you think about the Salem witch trials, what comes to mind? Sorry, I really am not a big fan of starting your paper off with a question. So if you did that, you should change it. Okay, so we got a 2 there. Attention getter is a statement, not a question. Is that a question? Yeah, 0. Attention getter grabs the reader's attention without mentioning the assigned question or book. Here's the thing. Yeah, it doesn't mention the book, but is that really grabbing your attention? It grabbed my attention in the wrong way. So I'm going to give it a 1. There are at least 3 sentences of background information that summarize the book. Okay, let's count our sentences again. 1. Again, background information is everything in between that first and last sentence. So I got 1, 2, 3. Yep, okay, sweet, good. All right, 3 sentences of background information. 2. Summarizes or introduces the book and provides context. Yeah, I think it does that. Okay, thesis is present and is the last sentence. Yep. Thesis states name of author, title of book, if not already mentioned, and the argument. Yes. Spelling and grammar. I'm going with the 2 on this one because of the word event. Okay. So again, if I was giving this thesis a grade, all right. So what's our total? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13, 14. Excuse me. So this one would be 14 out of 20. So not as good as number 1. Okay. All right. Let's pick another one. Okay. Let's do number 4. Okay. We're gonna skip this one and do number 4. By the way, if there's typos or spelling errors in here, okay, it's all because that's what the people wrote the first time. Okay. Now, if you see your intro on here, or you know, don't think it's a bad thing. I just kind of tried to throw the ones in here that were submitted first. Okay. So let's look at number 4. So on your grading sheet, our next one we're going to do here is introduction number 4. Okay. Okay. So let's look and see what they got here. Presidents, world leaders, corporate executives, and even doctors are all individuals who hold power. Okay, so there's your attention getter. Okay. Attention getter is present. Yep. Attention getter is a statement and not a question. Yep. Again, you're filling this all out on your worksheet, right? Again, attention getter grabs reader's attention without mentioning the signed book. Absolutely. Okay, back to our paragraph. These people hold power because they typically assume some sort of control over the lives of others. Yet with this great power comes an even greater responsibility. Oh, isn't that from the Spider-Man movie? This responsibility is tested when the person in power is forced to deal with difficult situations. The Salem witch trials are a perfect example of such a situation, where a community faces hysteria over individuals who are accused of witchcraft. The Crucible is a play that explores what happens when a community in turmoil places too much importance on the authority of its leaders. In his play, Arthur Miller argues that the abuse of power can lead to the breakdown of a community. Whoa, dude, that's like almost perfect. Okay, so do we have 3 sentences of background information? Okay, count them up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sweet. Yes. Okay, so give them a 2. Does it summarize and introduce the book? It absolutely does. It comes right out and says the Crucible is a play. Okay, that's what you want to do. The Crucible is a play that does this. Okay, again, your readers never read it. Give them 2 points for that. Thesis is present in the last sentence. Heck yeah, it is. Okay, now check this out. When we're grading, it says thesis states name of author and title of the book, if not already mentioned in intro. So, because if you go back to your introduction, so here's our thesis right here. So we have the author, okay, but we're not saying the book again because we put it right here in this sentence. It says the Crucible is a play, okay? So that works. So you don't have to repeat yourself if you say it before your thesis, okay? Are there any spelling grammar errors? I don't see it, okay? So for this one, I think what you need to do is you need to write 20 out of 20. Okay? This is like a perfect intro. So if you want to model one after this, and I'm just going to point out a couple things here, okay? Why does this one sound so good? Remember what I told you in the very beginning about repeating words? All right, so check this out. Go back to this. Let's look at or circle, highlight, underline the words that are repeated. So right here, I've got in my very first sentence, power, okay? People, all individuals who hold power. Oh, in fact, check this out, hold power. Second sentence, these people hold power. I'm repeating another phrase because they typically assume some sort of control over the lives of others, okay? Yet with this great power, so there's our power again, comes an even greater responsibility. This responsibility, oh, there we go. Look at, this is how it sounds so good because we are repeating phrases. This responsibility is tested when the person in power is forced to deal with difficult situations. Oh, and look, check it out. There's power again. Okay, then you've got the Salem witch trials are a perfect example of a situation. Oh, I'm repeating words again. Okay, where a community faces hysteria over individuals who are accused of witchcraft. Okay, the Crucible is a play that explores what happens when a community, oh, there you go, community. Do you see how all these words are repeating? Places too much importance on the authority of its leaders. And now check this out. So you've got power and authority, you've got leaders, and then, wow, look at, it goes way back up here. There's, see how those connect? In his play, he argues the abuse of power can lead to the breakdown of the community. So we have power, and then we have community again. So if you look at how all those words, they're all connected. They flow together. All right? So if I was going to put a note on this one, so you need to annotate. Everything flows and sounds good due to repeating specific phrases. Okay? All right. All right. Let's take a look at some of these other ones that are on here. I'm not going to go through the whole grading process because I want you guys to have at least a little bit of time to look at your own. But this one just made me laugh. So look at number 5. Hysteria is like a disease that has the power to sweep through a nation. Now, awesome attention getter. In the Crucible, a small town is overrun with accusations of witchcraft that ends up with over 20 people getting hanged for it. The reasons for accusation were petty and were not logical, but because the devil was thrown in there, people became hysteric. I think it should be hysterical, but whatever. In the Crucible, Arthur Miller argues that fear of the unknown and what happens to people who fear without reason can only end in chaos. That is still relevant today because of many incidents, some involving disease, the apocalypse, and clowns. That just made me laugh. All right. So hopefully then you guys have some examples of like some okay thesis statements. You have one that is like a rockstar thesis statement, okay? And if you were grading it, these are the things that you're specifically looking for, okay? All right, so what I'm going to do is I want you to work on your own. Okay, if you guys go into Schoology eventually here, you're going to see that I will throw up here a link to a document that says introductions. I just got to find it, okay? It's not a link. It'll actually be a PDF. It'll have all kinds of different introductions on it. All right, so your goal today is to look at your introduction, see if you did the right thing, okay? So you can use those boxes again. Get rid of all these, okay? So rewrite your introduction here if you need to, all right? I hope this helped. I'm going to do another little video for you again tomorrow because unfortunately I'm not going to be here again tomorrow. But I'll do a little video for you about body paragraphs in the exact same way, okay? Please email me if you're stuck or having problems and lean on Mr. Alvaro as well. He knows what he's doing, okay? All right, have a good day. Hope this helped. Adios.